This is a rather special Sunday here at the church, for we have just baptized not one but two children, Charlotte and Madison. Their parents, Susan and Kyle, are active members of our congregation. Baptisms are a rather rare occurrence here. We've only had one other this year, and that was for a grandchild of one of our older members. Perhaps the rarity of such occurrences makes them even more special, because everybody loves it when we bless a baby, and most everybody loves babies. Indeed, next to videos of puppies, videos of babies seem to be the most popular thing on the internet. This season is all about a baby. Sometimes when we hear the story of the birth of Jesus, sometimes we wonder how anyone could turn away a pregnant mother. What was that innkeeper thinking? And what about the other guests at the inn, we ask ourselves? Did no one take pity on poor Mary and Joseph? And what about after the baby was born? Why didn't anyone offer to give up their room for the newborn and his parents? Such thoughts, it appears, are not new. Indeed, people must have raised such questions way back in the 16th century, because good old Martin Luther himself addressed just those questions in one of his sermons. "There are many of you," he once said, "who think to yourselves, 'If only I had been there, how quick I would have been to help the baby.' You say that because you know how great Christ is. But if you had been there, you would have done no better than the people of Bethlehem. Why don't you do it now?" asks Luther. "You have Christ in your neighbor." And then probably everybody went home. Other than the shepherds, the first to recognize that Christ was in their midst were two old folks, folks like most of us. Two old folks who spent a lot of time at the temple in Jerusalem. Their stories are not nearly as familiar as the stories about shepherds and wise men, yet the stories are still part of what scholars call the birth narratives. Our passage recounts the observance of three ancient Jewish rituals. I suspect the first is the one that may be familiar to you. On the 8th day after his birth, every Jewish baby boy was to be circumcised, called a bris. This practice continues to this day. Mary and Joseph, being observant Jews, made certain that this happened. This was also the time that a baby boy was given his name. Now, we don't practice ritual circumcision, but in our sacrament of baptism, we continue to include the naming of a child, which, by the way, is where the term christening comes from. As an infant or child is presented at the font, we ask, by what name shall this child be called? Even as Jews combine their rite of inclusion, circumcision, with the naming of a baby, so we combine our rite of inclusion, baptism, with a ritualistic naming. The second Jewish ritual mentioned in our text is the redemption of the firstborn. Jesus, remember, was the firstborn son of Mary. The book of Exodus states that every firstborn male, human or otherwise, must be consecrated, offered, devoted to God. The Lord said to Moses, we read in Exodus, "Consecrate to me all the firstborn, whatever is first to open the womb among the Israelites, of human beings and animals is mine. We don't know where this practice came from. Some speculate it may have been a holdover from the days of human sacrifice. But whatever the case, it was a requirement. It was a requirement in the time of Jesus. Parents were to present their newborn at the temple and offer up an animal sacrifice, usually a sheep or a goat. In the case of poor parents like Mary and Joseph, they could offer up 2 doves or 2 pigeons instead. Now, let's be honest. All this talk of sacrifice, human or animal, feels rather barbaric to our modern sensibilities. But it was commonplace in that day, practiced by most cultures, and once again, Luke includes it to remind his readers that Mary and Joseph were Torah-abiding Jews. The final act required after the birth of the child was the ritual of purification. After giving birth, a woman was considered ritually unclean for 40 days. At that time, she had to go through a ritual cleansing in the mikvah, the bath, and make an offering at the temple before she could once again fully engage in the religious life of the community. Again, Mary did as the law required. Now, what makes Luke's account of these 3 rituals more than a mere liturgical report is the inclusion of 2 characters who are mentioned nowhere else in the Scriptures. 2 folks as old as most of you, or even older. The first, a prophet named Simeon. The second, a pious widow and prophet in her own right named Anna. Simeon had been promised by God that he would not die before seeing the Messiah. When Mary and Joseph show up with the baby Jesus, Simeon recognizes him as the promised one, as the Messiah. Simeon has waited years for this moment. Despite his advanced age, he still has strength in his heart and strength in his arms. He takes the infant and cradles him in his arms, and he pronounces a word of blessing. And then he also blesses the parents. Now, O Lord, he says, speaking of himself, let your servant depart in peace, for my own eyes have seen your instrument of salvation. He tells Mary and Joseph that Jesus will bring light to the world, but he also warns them that it will not be easy, that Mary in particular will experience great sorrow, pain to her heart because of her newborn son. The wise words, the prophetic words of the old man Simeon were indeed a blessing to the new parents and to their child. Anna was a widow. She had lost her husband probably somewhere around the age of 20. And now, 64 years later, at the age of 84, an old woman, she devoted all her time to prayer and fasting. She virtually lived in the temple. Today, we'd probably call her a church lady. Despite her loss, she too recognized Jesus as the Messiah and offered her own form of blessing as she told one and all who this child was and what he was destined to do. 2 aged, elderly souls, long since past the years of having young children of their own, probably past the years of having young grandchildren of their own. They were in the great-grandparent stage of life. Indeed, Anna may never have had children at all. Yet here they were at the temple, offering up real blessings on this very young family. This past year, we published a new pictorial directory for our congregation. It has pictures of most of our members and a full listing of the names and addresses of our church family. Looking through it, though, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that we are an older congregation. Lots of gray and blue hair in those pictures. And lots of no hair in those pictures, too. Of the over 350 families in our congregation, only 11 have children living at home who are 18 years of age or younger. All told, we have 21 children, 18 and younger, who are formally a part of our congregation. 21. I, for one, am very grateful for each one of them. And I am so very pleased at the way this congregation makes such little ones and their parents feel at home. It's not that we wouldn't like to have more, and who knows, someday we might. Someday more young parents and their children might choose to enter into formal covenanted relationship with our congregation. But right at the moment, that's the number of families with children, 11. We need to do all in our power to support such families. But let's be honest. If we want to be about the business of blessing babies, if we want to help shape the next generation, then we obviously need to reach beyond our own membership. And the good news is, we are. Every school day, downstairs in our classrooms, 17 children from 13 families, only one of which is among those 11, 17 children are being loved and cared for by our preschool staff. Our teachers, Laura and Anna and Laura Lee, teach them their ABCs, how to sing, all about the love of God, an appreciation for Vivaldi. They help them to tie their shoes and ride on Hot Wheels and draw pretty pictures, sometimes modeled after great artists like Van Gogh. Over half of those children are on scholarships. Scholarships that literally make it possible for them to attend. Their moms and dads are, for the most part, working parents who need all the help they can get. And we're providing it. Your generous support of the preschool fundraisers, your generous donations to the scholarship fund, your willingness to share this space with children, quite frankly, you don't even know for the most part, all that is making it possible for 17 children to have a truly great start in life. Through the preschool, like Simeon and Anna, you are old folks blessing babies. Let's be honest. We are old folks blessing babies. Most Wednesday afternoons, our Shine program is offered for kids from preschool to 5th grade. Our Children and Youth Committee, working with Pastor Deb, have created a wonderful program of Christian education for kids. They learn about the Bible, they make great crafts, they play silly games, and they eat all sorts of stuff, but most especially pizza. And many of you, like Judy Dougherty, have volunteered to help out. Some 18 children are part of Shine. Yes, some of them are children of our own members, but most of them are not. And through Shine, like Simeon and Anna, you are blessing babies. Later in the day, on Wednesday, Pastor Deb, assisted by Rob Schofelt and several other volunteers, runs the Journey program for 6th grade and up. More Bible study, ethics for adolescents, sharing time, silly games, and pizza, of course. And a few times a year, lock-ins, when everybody stays at church overnight and Pastor Deb loses her mind. Loses some sleep. All because of you. All possible because of the volunteering you do to help out and the monies you provide through our budget to underwrite the effort. Like Anna and Simeon, those of you who are a part of this congregation are blessing babies. And the list goes on. So many of the agencies we support through our mission and benevolence work with children and youth. Gladiolus Learning Center, for instance, which offers children from various backgrounds over in Harlem Heights and Fort Myers a real chance in life. Through the work of folks like our missionary, Mark Bailey, administering a school in Lesotho, and on and on. Yes, we may be an older congregation. No maybe about it. We are an older congregation. But like those old folks in Jerusalem, you are blessing babies. Impressive, isn't it? Yet there is so much more to be done. So many more babies that need to be blessed. Children that need to be fed and educated and loved. Teenagers that need to be told, yes, you matter. So many children that need to be protected from the ravages of war. So many babies that need to be cured of diseases like Ebola. They may not be our own, but that should never matter. As Luther said, you have Christ in your neighbor. And the baby Jesus, the young child Jesus, the gangly teenager Jesus is always present. Present in the lives of the babies, the children, and the youth who are all around us. As we move into the new year, I pray that we as a congregation and as individuals will continue to strengthen and expand our work as Annas and Simeons. Might we as a congregation always seek to be those who bless babies. Amen. Sisters and brothers, two of the babies that are closest to my heart are with us this week, two of my granddaughters. This Christmas seems to have been for them the Christmas of nail polish. Between them, I think they received 50 bottles of the stuff. Oh, God protect the environment. And of course, having all that nail polish meant we really need to have you have some nail polish, Pop-Pop. I wasn't really quite willing to have all my nails polished, but I did consent to one. You probably can't see it, but it's a bright pink with a little smiley face on it. Last night, anticipating this morning, I said to Linda, we must have some nail polish remover somewhere, don't we? And she said, yes, but then I had second thoughts. Then I decided to keep this little pink fingernail till it wears off as a reminder for me personally. I'll kill you, Bruce. As a reminder of the responsibility to bless babies. They don't have to be babies that are close to your heart or that you know, like the little one who put polish on my nail. There are lots of babies in the world who need your blessing. And if Christmas reminds us of nothing else, it must always remind us that we, as followers of the one born in Bethlehem, are called to be like Anna and Simeon, no matter what our age, and to find ways to bless babies. Go in peace. Go and find a baby to bless, even if it means getting your nails polished.